Hi, and welcome back to another episode of Abilene People, our podcast here on bigcountryhomepage.com, where we talk to Abilene's most interesting people. And here we are, the first week of school starting back, and we certainly have an interesting person and a very qualified person to talk about kids and schools and all things related to helping kids out. Justin Whiteley from Communities and Schools of the Big Country. How are you, sir?
Doing great. Great to be here this morning with you guys.
Hey, man, we're so glad you're here. So tell me, what does Big Country's version of communities and schools really do on a day-to-day basis?
Yeah, definitely. We are super engaged in making sure that every student has the best opportunity to make sure that they have the best education. Everyone deserves the opportunity for a good education, and so we are on campuses full time. 22 campuses across the big country, and each one of our campus student advocates, had the opportunity to engage students, making sure that they find those students who are needing that extra support and they're there for them.
So you're not teaching in the classroom. You're coming alongside the work that's going on in schools to develop relationship with kids and their families. Is that another way to
Yeah,
say it?
so our mission is to make sure that we're surrounding students with a community of support, making sure that they're staying in school and they have the best opportunity in life. And so, what does that look like? As a student is falling asleep in class, or they're getting in some trouble in class, the teacher is having some challenges with them. A lot of times, those teachers don't have the opportunity to find out what is that full picture of that student, what's going on in that student's life, and sometimes those are things that aren't classroom related. And so our staff have the opportunity to make sure to step in and take the time to build that relationship with the student. And teachers have a lot on their plates. We have amazing teachers in the big country, have a heart for kids. They do a lot of work and they have a lot on their plate. And so we come up beside them and say, hey, here's some ways that we can help you.
So that help would include, I'm assuming, just if a kid is chronically asleep in class, helping the teacher figure out maybe what's going on in that student's world that's causing that.
Yeah, what is causing that student to be tired and stuff? It could be that student sleeping in their car or couch hopping because they don't have a place to live. It could be that they're taking care of two or three siblings because mom is working two or three jobs, and so he has to take care of and help the family out that way.
So you said you work in on 22 campuses. I think you represent or you're in 6 different school districts here, including Abilene, and right around Abilene, is it Wiley?
Yes, we're
Um,
in Abilene High, Cooper, all four of the middle schools here in Abilene, every school in Wiley, every school in Clyde, every school in Merkel, Breckenridge High School, and Sweetwater High School.
so do you encounter kids who are taking care of their siblings because maybe they live in a one-parent home and the parents working a lot and the kid's just exhausted?
Yeah, we have kids who are tired. We have kids who are having to work and bring money into the home because helping paying bills and those aspects. And so all
So
these
I mean,
things are happening. Yeah.
how old? What are we talking? Seniors in high school or?
Seniors in high school, we're having a lot of times that you may have some middle schoolers who are having to help out, family wise and stuff. A lot of our kids are dealing with adult challenges, and it's one of those things where the parents are needing help and support. They're doing all that they can to help out as much as possible, but there's just a lot on their plate, a lot of life situations that are happening, and so how can we walk beside them, and try to figure out how can we take some of these things off your plate so you can focus on the education part and not have to worry about what I'm going to eat tonight, where am I going to sleep tonight, and those things. Do I have what I need to be successful?
So I think that some of us who've been blessed or privileged to never experience that kind of hardship as a kid, it's just hard to even wrap your mind around. So I just want to get granular here. You're saying there are students in Abilene or the surrounding area in these districts you've mentioned and the schools you've mentioned who are hungry, who are not able to have an evening at home where they do homework, they watch TV, and they go to bed at 9:30 or 10 or 10:30 because they're having to play multiple roles to help a single parent. It's just hard to wrap your mind around if you've never experienced
Yeah,
it.
you have those parts of things, but you also have the pieces when it comes to those students who are dealing with anxiety, those people who are dealing with stress, bullying, and those aspects. And so, how can we step in and help support on our campuses in that area as well too?
Do you see a lot of bullying?
Yeah, there's a lot of bullying that goes on, and so where's that safe place? Our counselors on the campuses, a lot of districts do a lot. They do a lot of great jobs, and so how can we help support them coming into to that campus and say, okay, this kid is dealing with this. We're that safe place that they get to go and talk to, along
So
with that the counselor as well too.
what is the answer for bullying in a school these days? Because when I was a kid, the answer was the principal would grab the bully by the ear and pull him into the office, and you know, maybe everything from a harsh talk to more. I remember the threat of a paddle was not unusual. I don't think that happens in schools these days. So what's the answer?
Yeah, it's advocating for with the student if the student is being bullied. Sometimes that student doesn't know what to do, or is scared to do certain things when it comes to reporting those things. Or it could be that even the parents coming to the school and maybe they don't have the best relationship with the school, and so we're able to step in and try to be the advocate as well too. And so as we work with that student, how can we address the situation that's going on, so they can feel comfortable and safe being at school, and if something's happening, they have a safe place to go to get help as well.
So I want to go back a little bit where you come from with your experience. You have like 28 years, almost 30 years of experience working with young people. 17 of those years, as I recall, looking at your bio information, was spent in a city rec center. Um, Now you're working in communities and schools, but you've worked in a church ministry context. I mean, look, the point is you have a lot of experience with kids. Um, what's the best advice you give? Anything from to teachers and administrators in school to parents. What are you telling people about today's kid and how to deal with the myriad of problems that they have?
Yeah, definitely. It's not a hard answer, and the easy answer that people I get this question asked a lot. How do you do it? How do you impact these kids' lives? And the simple thing is relationships, real, genuine, true relationships. Me being me, and caring about somebody, loving somebody enough to no matter what they're feeling that day, they could be angry and stuff like that, but I'm gonna be with you no matter what.
And
Um,
I just want to stop you there because it that it falls into that old adage that I believe in. It sounds simple, but it's not easy. The very simple things are often the most difficult. Like the Bible says, love your neighbor.
mhm.
Sounds pretty easy, but it's not. It's just simple
Yeah.
because it's not easy. So what you just said about relationships, I mean, it sounds really simple, but you're talking about a commitment. You're talking about a slow cooker, not a microwave. So how do you do it? I mean, what's happening in our society that we're having so many challenges and problems? What's wrong with relationships today?
I think one of the problems is we don't have very much patience these days. Everything is given to us so quickly, and our relationship is on a screen. It's not with a person. And so when we're having to deal with people on a one-on-one basis, when it comes to face, and what does that look like to have an emotional connection to somebody that's not on a screen? That's not just kids. So I think kids get a bad rap, but adults are the same way. As adults, we have to model that behavior. We have to have conversations with our kids. What happened to the conversation at dinner time when you come home from school? How was your day? The simple things that we don't talk about with our families. The simple things that we can just discuss, and at the same time, when you're having those discussions, guess what? You're building relationships.
But going back a few minutes, I just can't imagine a family sit down for dinner in some of these families' contexts where it's a single parent household and mom's working till 8 or 9 o'clock, and a middle schooler is taking care of two elementary age kids. There's not going to be a father's knows best kind of sit down at dinner, or a Brady Bunch sit down at dinner. And they don't have an Alice cooking their food and helping them clean. There's just a lot of stress. So in the middle of that, relationships is still the key.
Still the key because I'll just use me as an example. Me and my wife, we're super busy. I work with communities in the schools. I do youth ministry at the Ministry Church of Christ. I ref football, I ref basketball, I ref baseball. But always find time to make sure to have those conversations with my kids. So we are busy. We're a busy society, but we have to be very intentional as parents, as leaders, not just our as parents, but as leaders, our schools, our teachers, that person who may be distant, going, hey, how's your day going? And those small things, those small conversations, what happens is we don't make ourselves sensitive to what's going on around us. But when we start looking at it, when it comes to when we make it in our hearts to be sensitive, then we see more. And so when we look for those things, those opportunities, and we make it important, then we do those things. But if it's not important to us, then we can be very easily distracted, and that's where people get lost.
You mentioned having a relationship with a screen and not a person. Uh, Social media, you think it's generally good or generally bad for our culture and for our kids?
I think it's a good tool if we educate, especially our younger people, how to use it. It takes discipline. Um, when they see us as adults, are we always on our screens? Do we have set times to put our phones down to make sure that I'm listening straight to you and not looking at my screen and talking to you at the same time? We have to model that as adults. But are we teaching our kids how do we use social media? What are the things that we have to be careful with when those things happen? Because my youngest one just got a phone. It's a scary thing to put a phone in a kid's hand and not going over some safety things with them because they have access to some very dangerous stuff on the internet and stuff at the tip of their fingers. And so we have to spend that time. It can be something that's good, but we have to make sure that we do a good job of educating how do we use this and model it as adults as well too.
Yeah, I don't know. A couple of years ago, I was walking in one of our city's parks, and I saw a dad with a little, I don't know, 2.5, 3-year old kid playing in the park. And I thought, how sweet. And as I was walking, I noticed the dad put the kid in the swing and was swinging the kid with one arm, and the dad was on his phone with the other. I don't know. I don't even know why I thought of that story, but as you were talking about it, that story popped in my mind. What would you say to a dad like that, or what advice would you give? I don't mean you'd walk up in the park and confront him, but what advice would you give our parents about this coaching for the best use of phones, devices, screens, social media?
Yeah, I think the advice I'd give is the same stuff that you're telling your kids to do, and making sure you're doing it too. That example of your dad with the swing, um, maybe put our phone in our pocket. That can be done at some other time and stuff. My focus is on my kid in that moment and things, because as family members, my kid's a little bit older now, but those moments when they're young, they'll be gone sooner or later. And so my encouraging is every moment that you have with your kids, give them that moment and stuff, because one day they're going to be grown and you're going to be wishing later on in life this. I mean, I wish I would have done this a little bit differently and stuff like that. So don't let that cell phone be the controlling factor.
So I want to draw on both your experience and your training. You have a bachelor's degree and a master's degree specializing in working with young people. You have 28 years of experience working with young people. Um, I'm curious, where were you when you heard about the Uvalde school shooting?
Yeah, we was working with communities in the schools. We saw it on the news what happened, and as a network, communities in the schools of Texas. The one in San Antonio actually, our CIS in San Antonio actually went and supported Uvalde School. They were able to go out there and provide mental health services to the school, to the teachers, as a resource to that community and stuff. And so that was a huge thing. It was great to see that the network that we have and the support that we're able to provide students and schools and districts, that somebody was there to help support that in that situation. Very very hard situation to be able to watch that on TV, and your heart just ache for the people involved, but also to see that you're a part of something that is able to help in that situation when it did happen.
And of course, the shooter, the perpetrator, was an 18-year-old young man who was described later as kind of the kind of kid that you're talking about is the heart of your mission. You know, you want to come alongside these families. I think in his case, he was living with his grandma or something. I don't know. I'm trying not trying to get all the facts right because I don't know all the facts. I'm just saying, generally speaking, it's disenfranchised people that do these kind of things, and I think that was a young man who certainly could be described as disenfranchised. That's probably the most benevolent way to describe the dynamics going on in his personal world. What do you think about kids like that? And what's the solution? Are we ever going to put the genie back in the bottle when it comes to gun violence in schools and these horrible things that occur? And God forbid they ever happen here in our community.
Yeah, I think one good thing that I can, especially in the Abilene area, is there are so many resources out there that we can utilize and stuff for support. And one of the things I have to tell myself, and I have to tell the people I work with, is we're not going to be able to help every student. There's going to be some that fall through the crack. There's students that I have personal relationships with throughout the 28 years that I've seen been arrested and stuff. And so we always come back to the table and say, I wish I could have done this. But at the same time, we can't lose sight of all the impact that we are making to all the kids that could have fell through the crack. But because of the services we're providing and the relationships that we have, we're able to step in and be that person and keep them going on the straight path and stuff. But there are going to be some. And when that does happen, it's a learning opportunity. What could we have done differently? And now we look at it and make some changes. Talk to our legislative people to say, are there changes that we need to make on the state level? Are there changes that we need to make on a local level? Are there some resources that we can help that maybe not that are not present that we can bring to the table and say, hey, let's start doing this and stuff. And so,
Well, you just brought up talking to our legislators. It seems to me that they're right now preoccupied with politics, not policy for the common good. And I remember a day when, though there was certainly was politics involved, the ultimate goal was let's come up with policies that effectuate change and help people, and they're for the common good. I don't know. You really think where you sit today that our politicians going to them is going to affect any change? I'm, I feel so negative when I even ask the question, but I guess I'm confessing a sense of, I don't know about all this. I wonder if the glass isn't truly worse than half empty. What do you
yeah.
think?
Yeah, one of the things that's challenging is talking about politics. That's one of the things that I try to stay away from as much as possible.
Yeah, and
But
so here we are in the podcast. What
yeah,
do you think about
no, no,
politics?
no, no. It's a great topic because one of the things is the people that we vote in, we are hoping and praying that they have the best interest of the needs of the people who voted them in. And so we have to respect their office, right? And hope that they do the best job when it comes to the needs that we have in our communities and stuff. And how can we support them? It's all about communication. It's about going and being present in those aspects. And so the more that we can do those things and have conversations and be at the table and be informed, then I think that helps us out in making sure that our students and their needs are being heard. Because all the way down from when I worked with the city, I worked with kids who at one point were the at-risk youth who were living in these areas of high crime, and within less than a year, I taught them how to have a voice in their community, and they were able to make changes in their community. And so, by doing those things, by teaching them and showing them that they have power when it comes to their voice as young people, then they can help make change. And so that's what I think the American dream is all about when it comes to having faith in our politics, and making sure that we are able to utilize them in a way that is benefiting our communities as a whole.
So, generally speaking, are you glasses half empty or half full when it comes to the kind of things you're talking about? Because the reality check, I mean, I don't mean that you don't understand the reality. I think we all do. I mean, ICE is out there hauling people who are not violent criminals, but they're still hauling them away for um, without adjudication in a court. We have all of these social dynamics at work. I don't know. It just seems like we're just in this, drier tumbler mode of heat and anxiety in our culture. You think we're going to come through this okay, or put your prognosticator hat on?
Yeah, I'm.
You think we'll be all right?
One of the things that one of my friends told me one time, he said, "Justin, I appreciate you so much because you do look at things always, the glass always half full." Because I think that's important. Because when we start looking at it as empty, then we can get down into this ditch where it's hard to get out of and stuff. And so I think that we always have times in our life where we're in valleys, and there was times in our life that we're on the mountaintop. And so, how do we get to the mountaintop? I think it's staying positive, and a lot of times it's not alone. We need people around us to help us get up to that mountaintop and stuff. And so, the more people we have around us, the more people we have community around us, then we're helping each other out and making sure that we're getting through this together. Um,
Which is the mission of communities and schools, but it's also your advice to all of us at large. Build relationships, support one another. Um, okay, a week ago today, you and I were outside at a Walmart working all day. I don't know, man. It was a hot, hot day at Tools for Schools, KRBC's Tools for Schools. Uh, there were two beneficiaries of that school supply drive, and boy, Abilene, the big country, came out big and just almost overwhelming the amount of supplies donated. But Communities and Schools was one, and Christian Service Center was one. I just want you to take a minute and describe what Communities and Schools will do with all of those supplies, and how many did you guys collect? I know that's hard to quantify. I'm not asking for the number of pencils as much as how many loads, and how did it look in your building when it was all unpacked?
Yeah. So in my office, I don't have a huge office and stuff, but my whole open floor area was stacked full of school supplies. I couldn't hardly walk through my office without stepping on school supplies, which is a great thing. It was hot, but I couldn't stop smiling because Abilene is always such a good blessing when it comes to going out and supporting a good cause and stuff. And so Abilenians are great in that. And so we've been getting phone calls when it comes to, hey, I need help with school supplies, and being able to help those families out and stuff, and putting school supplies in our staff's hands and saying when we have kids that are coming to school, they need these things. They're confident and being able to say we're going to help kids. This is going to be a good beginning of the school year, because when you don't have this tools, when you don't have the school supplies and you're starting off, that always that brings stress to the kids' lives. That brings stress to the family because, oh man, my kid doesn't have what they need, and so how are they going to function at school if they don't have the supplies?
Yeah, it's a lack of supplies is just one more of those many
Yeah,
dynamics you talked about that enables or disables, gets in the way of a kid learning.
yeah, and the cost of things, when it
Yeah.
comes to, that's just the school supplies. Now my kids also need clothes. My kids also need other things and stuff, and so it's just one thing that we're able to provide as a support to maybe take that one thing off their plate so they can focus on something else, and get them through this process and say, okay, we got through this. What's next? What's the next thing on our list to do? Because something else is going to come down the road. Guess what happens when they got support there? They're going to be more confident and and be able to deal with those things even better because they know they have a community of support around them. That's what it's all about is let's walk together. You're not alone. Okay. We're in this together and stuff. And so let's do this together. Um,
And you're able to take the supplies that Abilene and the Big Country donated. A lot of supplies were dropped off at KRBC sponsor, First Bank Texas. A lot of supplies were dropped off here at the TV station. And then just the volume of supplies donated last week at Walmart. You're able to take those supplies, give them to your staff who know by name the students and the families and their situations, and just make sure there's not a pencil wasted, that it goes to people who genuinely need the assist and the come alongside help. That's what you're doing.
yeah, exactly. It's making sure that we are using our resources wisely, partnering with community partners and stuff, and making sure who are the kids who need these, who are the families that need these. So that's why we get the phone calls. That's why we get the messages and stuff. And so when we identify those students, when the principals and our staff on campus find out who these students are, we can come up to them and say, "Hey, we got you. We got your back. We got this." And
Yeah,
and it's almost like a high five, tag you're it and stuff like that. Go to school, go to class, and do great.
I love it. I love it. So, speaking of communities and schools, one description says their team is more than just a helping hand. They're trusted allies who know students by name, track their progress, build relationships that last for years. Is that true?
That's true. We work with academics, attendance, behavior, basic needs, mental wellness through TEA. Some of our funding comes through TEA. And so when we're giving funds, we have to show what we do works. And so we have the data to be able to prove that we are the #1 dropout prevention program in the nation. And it's because of that data and the relationships that we have is why we can be so successful.
And I suspect, I don't know if you guys have studied this, but I would suspect that there's also a straight line, not only from the work you do and kids don't drop out, but I would think there's a straight line from you guys to somebody that's prevented from becoming a violent kid, somebody that's despondent and does something tragic. I don't know if you have data like that, but I suspect that there's a relationship there.
Yeah, there's stories that our staff has when it comes to a kid who's had some behavior problems, and then working with us, their mindset has changed, their behavior has changed, and those are some of the hardest ones to change because those are learned behaviors, and it can't happen overnight. But
Yeah.
a lot of times we want it to happen overnight.
Well, there we go, though. It's a slow cooker, not a
Yeah,
microwave.
slow cooker. It takes time. It takes sticking in with them because at first, they may have had people in their life that's been in and out. So how much trust do they have in people?
Okay, so you said something. I just want to revisit it because just a minute ago you said you guys are the #1 school dropout preventative. Is that pretty much what you said?
Yes. Uh-huh.
So maybe there's a headline there. I'll give a note to our ace producer Travis Corrigan. Maybe there's a headline there, Travis, that we want to make sure pops out at everybody. So if you want kids to not drop out of school, support communities in school.
Yes. Uh-huh.
Yeah, I
Yep.
like it. I like it a lot.
99% of the kids that we case manage stay in school. And these are the kids who are at risk of not completing school. And so we want to make sure that we're there for them. School districts use us to make sure that we're there for them. And when I first started with communities and schools, we were in 6 campuses. Over the past 11 years, we're now in 22 campuses. Why is it happening? Because the need is there and the opportunity is there to do the work. And we have a waiting list of districts who want us to come and be a part of what we're doing and stuff. And our kids need us. Our families need us.
So one touchstone as we start to draw toward conclusion, you just said 99% of the kids that you guys case manage stay in school.
Yes. Hmm.
And I would imagine that means they matriculate all the way through and get their high school diploma. Is that accurate?
Yeah. The ones that like this last year, all the kids um, that were in our program, we case managed around 1,500 kids this last year. All of them stayed in school from high school down to the elementary school.
That's incredible. So you want to make one distinction, though you case manage 1,500 kids, and those are ones that you have an intentional and a very specific relationship with. Your reach goes to about 10,000 total kids in all the 22 campuses and 6 districts that you're in.
Yep. We do programming called Tier 1 services, and our goal is to make sure that we're providing services to the whole school. These are targeted for areas of improvement that the school has shown that, hey, we have a goal here that we want to try to reach and stuff. And so how can we help serve the entire school and helping reach this goal? And there's times that there are kids who aren't a part of our program that need services. We won't turn them away. Those kids who are coming, they may not be in our program, but if they need school supplies, guess what? They're getting the school supplies.
Yeah, and real quick, and I promise, I know you've got things to do and places to go, but um, let's just talk about one campus and your worker at that campus, just because I happen to know this young lady and she's outstanding. That's at Man STEAM Academy, and your worker is Grace Ann Combs.
Yes.
So let's say that I'm a student and I walk into Man STEAM Academy, and I may not even know that I need the kind of services that communities and schools and Grace Ann Combs can provide. But how would I get into that program so that I can become one of the 1,500 cases that you manage?
Yeah, definitely. There's multiple ways that can happen. A lot of times, a teacher will recommend a student or a principal or somebody in that nature and stuff. And so we have that.
And they would just recommend them like to Grace Ann or
They
to
can
the
send them. They'll
teacher?
send them
Or,
email. They'll do a recommendation form. It could be passing by in the hallway when hey, I have a student that you may need to see and stuff. And so we have friends of students who can recommend them as well too. We have the student themselves that may come to our office and say, "Hey, I really need some help." We have the lunch lady or the custodian or the bus driver or a parent. Anybody can recommend a student. When you see a student that needs the extra support, we want to know about that and stuff. And so once they make their recommendation, we start the process of they have to get a parent consent signed saying that we have permission to work with that student. We start doing some assessments with the student, and then we start providing those services in the areas that they need and stuff. And so working with them, building that relationship, finding out who they are, letting them see who we are as individuals on our campuses and stuff. That's why Grace Ann is so good because her personality and opportunity and ability to be able to build that relationship with students is great. And so every person that we hire, that's one of the things we're looking for is who can really connect with our students. And all of our staff does a great job at making sure to connect with students.
love it. Okay, so here is the long promised conclusion. Um, we've talked about your personal experience. We've talked about the organization. We've dipped our toe into politics and social issues. I just want to back away and ask you as an Abilenian. Um, what are your dreams for Abilene, and what would you like to see going on in Abilene 10 or 15 years from now? Oh,
Yeah. I would love Abilene is a great city when it comes to being able to raise a family and stuff. And so, as we continue to grow, I believe, according to some things that we've read and seen, that Abilene's going to be jumping and growing in population here soon. What are some more family things that we can provide for families to do as a community and stuff? What are some amenities that we can add to bring that opportunity for families to really flourish and everything? And so when we think about growth, we have parks and recreation. We have two new recreation centers being built. And so what else can we add on to that? What kind of programming do we need? What are the gaps to be able to help and make sure that our families that are coming, they have the support and the ability to be able to be strong families and stuff. And so as we grow, I think the family is going to where is the most important part in making sure that we're also healthy because it affects the crime, it affects the health, it affects everything when it comes to the relationships that we have in our community.
well, it's been an interesting conversation. I think pretty educating. I think as anybody listens to this, they're gonna learn a lot.
Yeah.
And if people wanted to get involved with the work of communities and schools, uh, obviously anybody can go to Dr. Google and put in communities and schools and find you ultimately, but you're called Communities and Schools of the Big Country,
Yes. Hmm.
and they could call you personally and talk about how they'd like to support or be involved. Is that right?
Yeah, definitely. We are always looking for partners. There's such a big needs for things when it comes to a lot of things that our kids needing. So businesses who are interested in saying, "Hey, I really would like to support you guys." You can go to our website, cisbigcountry.org, take a look at what we do, look at our page, give us a call, 325-232-8712. Justin Whiteley at cisbigcountry.org. You can email me. And we always want to build those bridges to the campuses we serve because, again, it's a community. And so the more people that we put connected to our kids' lives, then the better opportunity and chances they have to be successful.
Well, there it is. Thank you so much for coming
Yes,
and being
sir.
on the podcast.
Appreciate you having me.
Yeah, a lot of fun, a lot of fun. And not just fun, but a lot to think about and a lot of great perspectives. Thank you so much
Yes,
for your
sir.
time and your work. Thanks for all you guys do at communities and schools of the Big Country.
Thank you for the opportunity of being here.
And thank you for joining us here on bigcountryhomepage.com. Thank you for your commitment to these podcast episodes, Abilene People. We always say we're going to bring you the most interesting people in Abilene. I don't think we failed one time yet, and today certainly wasn't. A big shout out to our guest, Justin Whiteley, and to our ace producer, Travis Corrigan. I think that's two shout outs in one episode for you, Travis. We got to watch out for that. But I also just want to thank the citizens of Abilene and the Big Country who just recently participated so big with KRBC's Tools for Schools School Drive. Communities and Schools was one of the beneficiaries of that. A whole lot of kids are going to be really blessed and advantaged where they otherwise might not have the glue stick, the crayons, the notebook, the paper, the supplies that you provided. And thank you so much for your generosity. I'm Danny Sims, your host, and we'll see you back next time here on Abilene People.